Alright, let's have a look here. I'm going to keep going, folks. I got more to do. I haven't finished yet. Good evening. Let's see if I can sort of get myself together from this point. Hello, Esther. Hello, Fluffles. Thanks for dropping by. Thank you so much. So, first of all, I really want to apologize. For the last week or so, I've been talking about this particular thing here. This is the full moon, where the sun is over here in Cancer and the moon is opposite in Capricorn. It's already just happened, but it's still there. It's been building up for a couple of weeks, obviously. But as far as I can remember, without going back and checking my videos, I was actually calling this a new moon several times. And I hope people didn't, take me too seriously, or that they just kind of went, oh yeah, it's TL, he just made another silly mistake. Don't worry about it. It's actually kind of a serious mistake as far as I'm concerned, because this is actually a very serious axis for me personally, because I correlate this very strongly with the United States, and I'm going to continue to do that on this axis here, as you'll see in about 2 weeks from now. Okay, so this is a very serious pivot point here. Now, where else was I? Over here. There's nothing going on in Aquarius right now over here directly, except for this massive Pluto cusp. So in some ways it's a bit awkward, but we don't have direct opposition because Mars and Venus have already moved way on towards the end of the Leo sectors over here in the 5th house. But still, this Mars-Venus energy directly opposes what I see as the upcoming. It's just like a sensation that we're picking up. And we've already had a glimpse of it this year already, about the massive changes and upheavals that are coming to society across the world. Anyway, here's another hot spot over here. Of course, the nodal axis is at its cusp as well, and it's moving into Aries. That's a whole other story, and I have a feeling it's going to be very significant. Remember, this nodal axis only occurs every 19.5 years or so to go around a full cycle. So we're here again. Let me just check in with you guys personally over here so that you know I'm not a robot or I'm not AI. Okay, so I'm going to assure you, I am not a piece of AI. I am actually TarotLumination live. I have not been programmed. My intelligence is fed to me directly by an algorithm. Oh no, I said it. I admitted it. I am an AI-generated YouTube channel. Sorry, I must have been possessed. I don't know what happened to me. Oh, whew, that was scary. I thought I was getting possessed by AI. Have you seen those stories recently of Beyonce on her big global tours? Apparently, she goes through a kind of a blackout before she goes on a show and does a performance, and then she slowly recovers after the show. And Love Triber was showing something to me a while back about her shows and how the shows are like saturated with all this, I'm just going to say it, satanic type of content and imagery. And so the conversation about that was that maybe she is being programmed. Maybe she has already got her chip implanted and the AI is feeding her. Of course, some of you already know that at the very, very tippity top of the pyramid of the elites, this is just common conversation, what they do with each other and how they do it in their little kinky activities. They like to plant chips in each other and make each other do things. It's like, how the submarine that sank was operated off a PlayStation controller. Things like that. And give me a second. Okay, so yes. No, honestly, I'm just going to tell you, I'm not AI. This is real. You can see me, flaws and all. This is it. This is real skin. There's no There's no silicone here. This is just good old-fashioned human skin. I've got nose hairs. I've got hair in my ears. I can't see close up without my glasses. I know. This is it. This is it. All right. So don't be fooled by imitations. I know there's a lot of channels out there who are trying to imitate TarotLumination right now, but they're all fake channels. Lumination, it's not real. TarotLumination, that's not real. Lumination, that's not either real. Okay? Forget about them. Delete them from your subscriber list. So, apparently it's a supermoon, and the moon is in Capricorn, and sun is in Cancer. It's a classic opposition. Happens every 28 days. And it's going to happen again in 28 days. And halfway through that, we're going to come to the new moon, which is sort of around the, what did I say? What's that particular really important date? It's the 17th is the new moon, but I'm really looking at the 23rd. Okay? Okay, well, we'll have to do videos about that as well. Oh, what was that other story? Again, going back to that bizarre Ocean Gate submersible, apparently they found it, they pulled it up, and they've done the analysis, and apparently they've found things that look like body parts. So maybe it was just a horrible accident, and maybe they didn't get teleported, and maybe they didn't, sort of spontaneously disappear because they're involved with the global banking elites and they want to get out of the system and change their identities and live on an island. I don't know. There's so much stuff. I've been receiving so many things from people, and I can't remember half of them. Some of them are shocking, weird, bizarre. I've just had a few tonight. Some of them I haven't even read or looked at properly, so I don't know what's going on. I've kind of pulled away a little bit recently because I've been feeling very sick. The heat really messes with my body. And it's about 114 today. Earlier, it's starting to be a little bit less right now. And I was trying to do some yard work this morning, but by the time I was out there around 7 a.m., it was already 90, well, 88, 89. And I started to feel queasy again. I've been losing weight and drinking water, and it happens every summer now. It's just my body just kind of goes bleh, bleh. Anyway, Love Tribe are saying this is the last supermoon in Capricorn in her lifetime. Wow. Okay, let's go to the charts for a minute. Yeah, well, I don't really know what supermoons are, except apparently they're a little bit bigger because, the moon doesn't have an exactly perfectly spherical orbit. It does, the orbit it wavers a little bit, probably a few centimeters or whatever it is, as the moon wobbles around the Earth. Because remember, the moon is very close to planet Earth, and we are affected very strongly by the gravitational magnetic influence of all the other planets whizzing on our solar system. So, for example, when you have a really powerful stellium, we had one a while back over here in Taurus, that's going to affect the orbit of the moon, just slightly nudging it over here, nudging it over there a little bit more. Anyway, this particular axis is a very sensitive one for the United States. It's not quite to the degrees that I'm going to be looking at around the 23rd of July, but still, the United States is born with Sun in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer, I believe Venus in Cancer, and Jupiter in Cancer. So the astrology of the United States is very lit up right now. And the astrology of the United States also is born with Pluto in Capricorn at 27. We're right now about 29 and a half. So since I mean, I'm trying to get academic here, but if you want to add meaning to it, you can. But since Cancer represents the fourth house, the moon, to me it makes me feel that, I don't know how to put it in words, except that America is waking up. America, if you think of the United States as an organism, like a sensitive organism, it's got some very serious astrology transits acting like triggers on the natural born astrology of the United States when we refer to 4th of July 1776, tomorrow. And in my observation, what's happening is that there's a kind of a split, as the United States kind of is doing this with itself. You know, when cells, you know how cells grow in the body, and they start off like this, and then they multiply, and then they turn into 2, and then those 2 turn into 4, and so on, cell multiplication. And I think the United States, in its attempt to grow and evolve, is essentially going through this massive convulsion where it is trying to separate what works from what doesn't work. And it's, to me, as an observer, it's becoming very obvious what does not work about the United States anymore. And that is inevitable, given that we're at the right at the end of the perfectly natural Pluto cycle of about 250 years. It is the death. We're at the last stages of death. And so we will die and be reborn effectively. So when the new cycle starts over here, we're going to have a 20-year kind of, I would think, like a rebirth gestation period where America is going to be reborn, and it's going to be, I believe, very convulsive, highly unstable, very revolutionary, because it will be very obvious by this time next year and the end of next year, it's going to be very obvious what is not working about the United States and what is working, and you're going to have to basically pick a side. Do you want to be with what works, or do you want to try and hold on to some bizarre concepts of how things should be? And that's kind of what I see is happening. There are so many bizarre agendas being shoved down the throats, faces, minds, bodies, souls of American people right now by the usual culprits. We could name them, like the mass media, mainstream media, the big banks and their agendas, big government and their agenda, and a whole handful of wacko individuals who are trying to rip the United States apart. Basically, their goal is to completely obliterate this. Get rid of the Constitution, get rid of the Declaration of Independence, and turn the United States into an organism that does not have any form or structure. And that is like when a healthy cell is invaded by a cancer cell. So I know where I stand. Okay, I want to mention, I should talk about, I'll talk briefly about the Aries North Node in a section. Remind me to come back to that. I'm going to put that here. I just wanted to mention something. I might be, yes, apoptosis, the death of a cell. Yes, that sounds like a movie. Apoptosis. Have you seen apoptosis lately? Oh my God, it just came out. Hello, Diana. Hello, Necessary Truth. Good evening. Yeah, I think I can handle a couple of readings tonight. And it will probably do me some good because I'm so discombobulated. And when I do these shows, 90% of the time it helps me to get back to my center. So yeah, let's just say it. I'll do a couple mini readings. So I'll just pop over there. do the routine. So typically what people do is they go to TarotLumination.com on some kind of device or a new tab or a new window or something, and they find the donate page, put a couple bucks in the donate box. The more the merrier. That shows up here very quickly, and then you get your own magic post-it note and you get a reading. Bingo. Just like that. Yeah. So I'll put that over here for a moment. So if you look at this T-square here, it's not exact all the way, but it's very strong here between the moon and little Chiron. My personal feeling is that when we start the journey for real, when the North Node goes into Aries, we're going to see a surge in the energy of individuals. Each individual, okay, how can I say it? It's like each individual on Earth is starting to realize that, wow, wait a minute, my whole sense of sovereign self has been threatened. It's being undermined. The worst thing that could happen for those elites at the very, very tippity top of the pyramid of money, power, and control is for you to have your own sovereign wealth, your own sovereign power, your own sovereign identity, where you are you, fully intact, free, freedom to be who you are, say what you want to say, believe what you want to believe, do what you want to do. The folks up there don't like that, because as far as they're concerned, from their perspective, you're like a runaway cow. You're like a runaway cow on a farm. That's where your job is to wander around, do things that look and feel important, like, oh, I've got a job, I've got family, I've got friends, I'm earning money, I'm spending money, but most especially, I'm in debt. It means I'm working for them, and I'm giving all my lifeblood, my life energy, my life source to them through this very, very beautiful, elaborate, highly effective scam. Do you really want that? I think people are waking up. I think, for example, what was it? I watched it with Love Triber the other night. It was episode 27 about the fall of the Cabal. And it was kind of a summary of everything she talked about earlier. And it basically, again, it comes back to what's going on up at the very, very top at the pyramid of power. Translation into the astrology, 29 degrees Pluto in Capricorn. Okay? That 29 degrees, it's the energy of desperation, and you can probably tell everywhere you look. That's, of course, if you're interested in these things, if you pay attention to these things, it's very obvious that they're desperate. The folks up there at the top, they're absolutely desperate because they're starting to realize, well, wait a minute, if one debt cow escapes, that might trigger an avalanche or a stampede of other debt cows trying to escape. We can't let that happen. We have to start clamping down right now. So they're doing everything they can to insert chips and create the CBDCs on your phone, which will effectively imprison you. You, the person, you, your sovereign self. And Chiron is right there in the middle of it. Chiron and Aries. So it's like that Chiron and Aries is a very, very sensitive, delicate point for the whole of humanity. And we've been dealing with it for a long time, but it's going to be culminating over the next year and 6 months or so. The Chiron transit, I think it's about 1.5 years in each sign. It's about 19.5 years to go all the way around again. So, for example, here's an example. I know someone individually, personally, who has the North Node in Aries. They have other things, of course, in their astrology, but we keep up. We keep things, we really like fine-tune our conversations. And they are already sensing the energy of the Aries North Node. And that's going to essentially be like a guiding light for humanity. Dear humanity, dear people, dear we the people, it's time for you to carve out your own identity for yourself and prioritize that. In other words, the most important thing for you to do now as an individual is to be you. It's almost like the worst thing you could do is be there for someone else, or honor and respect the relationship that's already like saturating your life. And that was especially when we're talking about money, okay? Because for the last year and a half or whatever it was, the North Node was in Taurus, and we had these eclipses which highlighted a lot about anything and everything that was wrong with the global financial system. And a lot of people started waking up and realizing my sovereign self, it can be very closely tied to my sovereign wealth, my value, my values, my belief systems. And so that has been heavily, let's say, stimulated and challenged recently, and people are starting to realize, especially in my community and the people where I hang out with, like on the YouTube channels that I watch where I learn a lot, it's very evident that one of the most important things you can do is to reclaim your sovereign wealth as a pathway to regaining and taking ownership of your sovereign self. Because if you think of money as a form of energy, and you are living a life where you're committed to constantly giving it away, put it in the bank, save it on the IRA, 401k, make some interest in it, and it's all heavily distorted and manipulated to suck the lifeblood out of you and give it to them. I'm not saying God or heaven or Jesus or angels. I'm talking about the elites way, way up there. So, let me go back again over here. Give me a second. So, we're just starting this journey now over here. This is the axis of the North Node. So, the last year and a half or so, the whole momentum was for everybody to wake up and start to realize it's not always in your best interest to put all your money, all trusting all your wealth, all your money, all your cash, all your savings into someone else's hands. In other words, banks, the credit unions, all the people who are supposedly there to help you grow your money for yourself. Where in fact, a lot of the times, they're actually just lining their pockets by sucking it out of you and giving you an impression that they're actually taking care of you. But they're not. Okay? That's part of the scam. And people are waking up. YouTube is helping a lot of people, millions of people across the world, to wake up and learn and understand some of these things. Some of the channels that I watch, I'm surprised they're there at all, frankly, with the YouTube algorithms and the censorship, but some of them get through. There's some of the channels that I also watch that are very, very close to being shut down because they talk in their own, those are finance channels and politics channels, and they are so close to the borderline where their comments are not acceptable to the community guidelines and algorithms. I'm still under a warning here, so I'm having to be very gentle and careful. You know how I seem to have a tendency to get into trouble. But anyway, this axis here is starting a 1.5 year journey like this. Okay? And during that time, the North Node is going to conjoin with Chiron in Aries. And that's going to be a very important time for everybody on Earth, where people realize, like, wait a minute. I've been suckered all this time. Being guilted, being seduced, being scammed, being sucked in with codependency or whatever it is into such a way that all your energy, okay, let's start to put this over here. Let's say it's already inside. We're at the 0 point right now, so it's going to be very strong soon. That's kind of why I'm mentioning it tonight. Maybe we'll do a bunch of videos for each 12 signs, you know. Aries North Node for all 12 signs. Go back to the old days. I don't know if I'll have the time or energy to do it. But anyway, as the North Node goes like this, the energy is going to amplify, and I think more and more people are going to say enough is enough. And millions and millions of people right now are already sucking money out of their bank accounts because they don't trust the banks anymore for obvious reasons. For example, in China right now, there are hundreds of millions of people whose lives are being ruined because the banks have just taken their money. That's it. The people at the top of the banks running the banks just looked around and said, you know what? These people are stupid. They are excess to requirement. They're just dumb peasants. I'm just going to take all their money. Screw them. You know? And that's it. So that's what the bankers did, leaving millions and millions of Chinese destitute. And the bosses at the CCP, technically they have a law that says we will compensate you from criminal bankers. And then the CCP went, actually, wait a minute, we're not going to do that, because if we give you 50,000 yuan and then you 500,000 yuan, that sets a precedent, and then we're going to have to give 500,000 billions of yuan to all the people, and then we, the CCP, won't have any more money. Oh, that's a problem. I'm sorry, I have to stop the show. I'm feeling very sick.